They thought I'd break, that his words would bury me. But in just 5 days, my face would be on every screen in the country, and their perfect little lie would start to crumble. I still hear the sound of the door slamming, that sharp, final click as Eric walked out of the hospital room and out of our lives. He didn't even look back. He just said the words like they meant nothing. Like I meant nothing. I can't live with a liar, Jessica. I'm done. And then he left. Just like that. No conversation, no chance to explain. No shred of the love we once had. I looked down at the twins, Lily and Noah, barely 5 hours old. They were wrapped in soft pink and blue blankets, sleeping peacefully, unaware that their father had just abandoned them. United States, me. He left me alone with 2 newborns and a heart full of shattered glass. All I could do was sit there, frozen, listening to the beeping of the heart monitor and the soft gurgling of my baby's breathing. The nurse came in a few minutes later, looked around, and asked gently, "Is Dad coming back?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. I wasn't even crying. Not yet. I was too numb. This wasn't just a breakup. It wasn't just betrayal. It was annihilation. We had been together since college. Eric was the golden boy. Smart, charming, ambitious. I was the scholarship girl from a broken home, head down, always proving I belonged. Somehow we clicked. Or at least, I thought we did. I fought for him. I fought with him. Against his mother, Margaret, who never missed a chance to remind me that I wasn't their kind of people. That I wasn't enough. That I would never understand what it means to be part of a real family. And now, maybe she had won. The next morning, I sat alone in the apartment we once called home. The crib we'd built together still stood in the corner, untouched. Our maternity shoot photos were still framed on the wall. My body ached from labor. But the deeper pain came from the silence. His silence. No calls, no texts, no explanations. Just one message left in the hallway by Margaret herself. A sealed envelope with custody documents and a post-it note that read, "It's better this way." That's when something inside me snapped. Not broke, snapped. And when a woman snaps but refuses to shatter, something powerful begins to rise. They thought they ended my story. They had no idea. I was just getting started. People used to say we were the perfect couple. Eric and I met during our sophomore year in college. I was the editor of the student newspaper, running on caffeine and deadlines, and he was the charming finance major who somehow always managed to look relaxed, even during finals week. He brought calm to my chaos. He said I brought fire to his life. We fit. Like some cosmic accident that actually worked. He was my first real home. I came from a world Eric only knew through charity galas and news reports. My mother struggled with addiction. My father was long gone. I'd clawed my way into university through scholarships and sleepless nights. I wasn't supposed to make it. But I did. And when Eric fell in love with me, I believed, for the first time, that maybe I didn't have to keep proving my worth. But Margaret made sure I never forgot where I came from. His mother was regal in the most chilling way. Perfect hair, perfect pearls, and eyes that saw everything like it was a price tag. From the first time she shook my hand, I felt it, like I was on trial and already losing. "You have potential," she told me once, over dinner at their family estate, sipping from a crystal glass. "But potential doesn't always mean permanence. Don't get too comfortable." Eric used to laugh it off. He'd kiss my temple and say, "Ignore her. She just doesn't know you like I do." But over time, that laughter faded. When I landed my first reporting job at a major news outlet, he was proud, at first. When I started winning awards for investigative journalism, he was quiet. And when we announced the pregnancy, twins no less, Margaret's face tightened like she'd just bitten into something rotten. "She's manipulating you," I overheard her whisper once. "This is her insurance policy." I wanted to believe Eric didn't listen, that he loved me too much to be swayed. But love, I would learn, is not always louder than power. And Margaret had power, influence, money, and a network of people who owed her favors. During my third trimester, the pressure escalated. Margaret became obsessed with my medical history. At first, it seemed like concern. She offered to pay for a private specialist at a clinic she personally trusted. I was exhausted, my feet swollen, my back aching. I agreed, thinking she was trying to make peace. I should have known. The new doctor was cold, clinical. He asked strange questions, brought up procedures I never mentioned. And then, 2 weeks before my due date, he told Eric something behind closed doors. Something I only found out about later. That I had a history of abortion. That my womb was compromised. That the twins might not even be biologically his. All lies. Vicious, calculated lies. But they worked. Because Margaret didn't just buy a doctor. She bought doubt. She planted it inside Eric's heart like a seed, and watered it with whispers and wine and the soft, poisonous voice of a mother who always got what she wanted. The night before I went into labor, I noticed he was distant. He barely touched my belly. He slept on the edge of the bed. I asked him what was wrong, and he just said, "We'll talk after the babies come." We never had that talk. Instead, I gave birth to two perfect screaming miracles. Lily with her soft tufts of brown hair, Noah with his father's dimple. I cried when I held them, not just from joy, from relief. I thought this moment would save us, but Eric came in cold. He barely held them. He looked at me like a stranger. Then he said it. "You lied to me. I can't live with a liar." And he left. No fight, no questions, just the judgment of a man who'd already made up his mind, because his mother made it for him. I stood in our apartment days later, holding both babies, their tiny bodies pressed against mine. The nursery was quiet. There were no more congratulations, no visits, just silence, and my own face staring back at me from a hallway mirror. Drained, hollow. All the photos were still there. The ones from our baby shower, smiling and holding pink and blue balloons. The sonogram picture on the fridge. Our anniversary trip to Vermont. All frozen moments of a life that no longer existed. I didn't cry. Shock is funny like that. It numbs you so you can survive. It lets you function. Feed the babies, change diapers, make bottles, while your world lies in ashes around you. But deep inside me, something else stirred. Rage. Not the kind that burns fast and fades. The quiet kind. The kind that waits. That watches. Because I knew Margaret thought she'd erased me. That Eric would move on, probably with Carla, the polished, poised daughter of his mother's favorite business partner. I'd met Carla once, briefly. Her handshake was limp, her smile too perfect. I was meant to vanish, to be a footnote in Eric's upward trajectory. But I was still here, and I still had my voice. The one thing no one could ever take from me. 5 days later, while the twins napped beside me, the phone buzzed with another message from a blocked number. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I already knew who it was. Margaret. She'd been calling, texting, sending flowers with notes like, "Let's be civil for the children's sake." Civil. After tearing my life apart. The audacity almost made me laugh. Instead of answering, I turned the television on, just for background noise. And that's when it happened. The commercial ended, and the familiar theme of Voice of Truth filled the room, a popular national talk show known for exposing real-life scandals. I had been working in secret with one of their producers, an old contact from my journalism days, ever since Eric walked out. Now, my face filled the screen. Not my full name, not his name, not Margaret's. But the details were enough for anyone who knew us to connect the dots. The segment opened with me sitting in a soft-lit studio, telling my story. Calm, composed, devastating. I trusted him. I trusted them. And when I was at my most vulnerable, they chose betrayal over love. I watched as the host leaned forward, concern painted carefully across her features. You're saying that someone actively sabotaged your marriage right after you gave birth to twins? I nodded on screen, voice steady. Yes, and I have proof. I smiled to myself in the apartment as the screen cut to a grainy audio recording. Margaret's voice, unmistakable, low and sharp. She'll never fit into this family. A little money to the right doctor, a whisper in Eric's ear. He'll leave her before she even leaves the hospital bed. The host's face froze in shock. The audience gasped. It was real. It was out there. No more whispers behind closed doors. Meanwhile, somewhere across town, Eric sat slumped in a bar, nursing a drink he barely touched. According to a friend who texted me later, he looked terrible. Haunted, pale and drunk before the first commercial break ended. He watched, glassy-eyed, as the life he had chosen crumbled in front of strangers sipping wine in their living rooms. Margaret, however, didn't take it quietly. Not even an hour after the broadcast began, my phone rang again, this time from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, curious. I played it later. Jessica, this is Margaret. You have no idea what you've done. Retract your lies immediately or I will destroy you. I have lawyers on retainer, and you will regret this. I saved the voicemail without a second thought. She was panicking. She had reason to. Because the voice of truth producers weren't stupid. They had verified the audio, double-checked every piece of information I gave them. And there was more, so much more. Margaret wasn't just going to face a public scandal. She was staring down potential criminal charges. Conspiracy, fraud, medical malpractice through the bribe doctor. For the first time in my life, Margaret Whitmore was scared. And it felt damn good. That night, as the segment replayed on cable news, my phone buzzed again. This time, a name I hadn't seen flash across my screen in 5 days. Eric. I stared at it, my thumb hovering over the decline button. A minute later, a text arrived. Please, Jessica, we need to talk. Need. Where was that need when I was lying in a hospital bed, bleeding, terrified, and alone? Where was it when I stood crying over a bassinet, trying to figure out how to feed 2 babies on one shattered income? Another text. I made a mistake. And another. Please, just one conversation. I closed my eyes, letting the bitterness wash over me without swallowing me whole. I opened a new message and typed back 2 words. You chose. I stared at it a second longer, then added, live with it. And I hit send. Across town, Eric sat in the parking lot outside my building for almost an hour, according to the neighbor who texted me updates. He never came to the door. Eventually, he drove away. He didn't deserve to see me. He didn't deserve to see the woman I was becoming. Because the truth was, I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was fighting back, on a bigger stage than Margaret ever imagined. My story was trending nationwide within 12 hours. The hashtag #Voice of Jessica was climbing Twitter's ranks. Women from all over the country flooded my inbox with messages of support, sharing their own experiences of betrayal, of gaslighting, of being silenced. Margaret tried calling the show's producers the next day, threatening lawsuits, demanding retractions. But it was too late. The dam had broken, and the dam was made of truth. I wasn't hiding anymore. I wasn't protecting their reputation at the expense of my own soul. I was finished being their victim. And this was just the beginning. Because when I'd handed over the audio recording, I'd also handed the producers another piece of evidence. A confidential email exchange between Margaret and the bribe doctor, spelling out the terms of the arrangement in black and white. Signed, dated, ironclad. I heard from a former colleague that Margaret's lawyer quit after seeing the evidence pile. Too messy. Too public. Not worth his prestigious reputation. And the best part? I had more. Photos, messages, voicemails. The house of cards she built so carefully was collapsing, and I wasn't even touching it anymore. It was falling under its own rotten weight. As for Eric, he tried again 2 days later. Flowers arrived at my door, A long, rambling, handwritten letter apologizing, begging, blaming Margaret, blaming the doctor, even blaming himself a little. But it was too late. I didn't need his apologies. I didn't need his guilt. What I needed was to raise my children in a world where they would never mistake silence for strength, where they would never think love meant sacrificing your dignity. I tucked the flowers into the trash, unopened. I filed the letter away with the rest of the evidence, and I turned my focus forward, toward my children, toward the future, toward the next phase of the fight that Margaret and Eric never saw coming, because I wasn't hiding anymore. I was building something, and the whole world was finally listening. Going public had never been the plan. When I first recorded Margaret's voice, it was out of instinct, protection. I didn't think I'd ever use it. I didn't even realize how much power it carried until I heard her clipped, venomous words played back in that studio, surrounded by microphones and bright lights. But the moment that broadcast hit the airwaves, something shifted in me. This wasn't just about my story anymore. It was about every woman who had been silenced behind polished doors and family names. Every mother abandoned. Every truth twisted by power. So when the host leaned in, her eyes wide, her voice trembling with the weight of what I'd just revealed, and asked, "What comes next for you, Jessica?" I didn't hesitate. "I'm launching a documentary series," I said. "It's called Blood Ties, a deep dive into toxic family systems, generational manipulation, and the price of silence. Because this, what happened to me, isn't rare. It's just rarely talked about." There was a beat of silence. The audience gasped, and then the studio erupted in applause. In that moment, I wasn't just a victim. I was the narrator of my own story, and I was done whispering. Within hours, the interview clip was everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, news outlets. Hashtags exploded. Voice of Jessica, Blood Ties Doc, Monster-in-Law. I went from being a broken woman holding her newborns alone in an apartment to a symbol of resistance. Then came the fallout. The full audio of Margaret and the doctor leaked online the next day. I hadn't released it. It must have come from the network's legal team or someone behind the scenes. But I didn't stop it either. And once it hit the internet, there was no containing it. Margaret's voice, cold and calculated, was now living on every major platform. "Tell him she's had abortions. Say the womb's too damaged. I'll wire the money tonight. You know what's at stake here." The doctor's name trended on Reddit before sunset. By the next morning, his license was under emergency review. A day after that, he confessed. Completely. He claimed he was manipulated, that he owed Margaret a favor, but the damage was done. His medical career? Over? His reputation? Atomized. And Eric? He was collateral damage in a war he helped ignite. It didn't take long for Carla to find out everything. She called me, not to attack me, but to apologize. "I had no idea," she said, her voice shaky. "She told me you cheated on him, that you used the babies to trap him. I never would have—" God, I feel sick. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But the truth is, Carla had always been Margaret's backup plan. The polished heir to a legacy marriage. I was the disruption. The reminder that love couldn't be arranged like a spreadsheet. 2 days after the scandal broke, Carla held a press conference outside her family's company headquarters. She didn't mince words. "I am cutting all personal and professional ties with the Whitmore family. I was misled. I will not align myself with lies and manipulation." The statement was short, but it hit like a bomb. Eric stood behind her, silent, looking like a ghost of the man I once knew. No suit, no polished smile, just guilt and shame, and the slow public unraveling of everything his mother had built for him. And Margaret? She tried to play the victim at first. She went on a rival morning show, tears in her eyes, claiming she'd been taken out of context and that she only ever wanted the best for her family. But viewers weren't buying it. The comment section turned into a courtroom, and she was found guilty by the public long before any real trial began. You don't manipulate your own son like that. How do you look a woman in the eye after stealing her future? This isn't taken out of context. This is evil. Her social media accounts vanished within a week. Then came the real loss, the one that actually mattered to her. Her business empire began to collapse like a house of cards in a hurricane. Partners pulled out of deals. Investors demanded statements. Stock in the family's lifestyle brand dropped 14% in 3 days. Journalists began digging into her older dealings. Suspicious donations, falsified board meeting notes, employee NDA violations. One anonymous insider called her radioactive. Nobody wants to be associated with a liar, they said. She's not a brand anymore. She's a warning. It was poetic. Everything she'd built on manipulation, fear, and control was now imploding because the very tool she once used, reputation, was turning against her. And through it all, I remained silent. Not because I was hiding, but because I didn't have to say anything. The truth was speaking loud enough on its own. When my producer called to tell me a major streaming platform was interested in blood ties, I just laughed. I had pitched it hoping to tell untold stories. Now, mine had become the pilot episode. They wanted to use my case to launch the series. The emails started rolling in. Editors, filmmakers, attorneys. Everyone wanted a piece of the storm. But I had conditions. No sensationalism. No name-dropping for shock value. This wasn't revenge porn. It was truth. It was a roadmap for women navigating the landmines of legacy, marriage, and maternal manipulation. I remember sitting in a quiet coffee shop, contract in one hand, baby monitor in the other, and thinking, this is mine now. The pain, the power, the platform, mine. And I wasn't giving it away to anyone. A week after Carla's press conference, Eric showed up again. This time, he brought a gift. Not flowers, not jewelry. A stuffed giraffe. Noah's favorite animal from the nursery wallpaper. He looked exhausted. Older. Like the last week had drained the life out of him. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, he said quietly. You didn't deserve any of it, and I think I always knew. I just didn't want to face it. I nodded. Not in agreement, just acknowledgement. I let him hold the door open as I walked back inside. But that's all I let him do. Because apologies don't rebuild trust, and regret doesn't make you a father. I watched him leave from behind the curtains, then turned back to Lily and Noah, asleep on their playmat. I knelt down between them, stroked their soft hair, and whispered, she tried to take everything from us. But she didn't win, because I had my babies, I had my voice, and I had a future where their mother wasn't just a woman who survived. She was a woman who built a legacy out of truth. The knock on the door came at 9:42 a.m. I was already dressed, already waiting. I didn't know if Eric would actually show up, but something told me he would. Some people only come crawling back when there's nowhere else left to crawl. When I opened the door, I didn't see him. I saw Michael, my lawyer. Tall, unshakable, with a folder tucked neatly under one arm. Good morning, Jessica, he said calmly, then turned to the man standing behind him. Eric. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, but smaller in that way people do when they've been stripped of the illusions they wrap themselves in. No suit, no tie, just guilt stitched into every line of his face. Jessica, he began, his voice trembling. I just wanted to... You'll want to speak with Mr. Ellison, I interrupted, nodding toward Michael. He'll walk you through the terms of the divorce. Eric blinked, stunned. Divorce? He repeated, like the word was foreign, like it wasn't inevitable. With a claim for emotional damages, Michael added smoothly, handing him the folder. Your client will find everything outlined, including evidence, timelines, and demands. Eric didn't move, didn't speak. For a second, he just stared at me like he couldn't believe I was the one ending this. But I wasn't ending anything. I was finalizing what he started in that hospital room the day he walked out. I closed the door without another word. By noon, the documents were filed. By 3 p.m., the footage hit the internet. I had given the social media team a green light to drop it all. The audio, the emails, the full narrative, carefully edited and wrapped with a hashtag that had already gone viral. #monster-in-law. Within hours, it was everywhere. Clips of Margaret's voice, side-by-side shots of me and the twins, headlines calling her the Queen of Cruelty, TikToks dissecting every lie, meme pages going wild with photoshopped images of her dressed like Disney villains. And the comments. Oh, the comments. She ruined her son's life and tried to erase the mother of his children. Hope the club has snacks, Margaret. You're going to be there alone. The way Jessica served revenge cold and court-ready? Chef's kiss. It was brutal. It was beautiful. And it was justified. By sunset, I received a message from the board of Margaret's Elite Women's Club, an anonymous tip with a screenshot. Effective immediately, Margaret Whitmore's membership is terminated due to conduct unbecoming of a member. Her last empire, the kingdom of brunches and influence and whispers over champagne, was gone, and all I had to do was tell the truth. But the best moment? It came later that week when I was nursing Noah in the living room, my laptop open beside me. An email popped up from a Netflix executive I'd only dreamed of contacting. Subject line, "Let's talk about blood ties." I opened it. It wasn't just interest. It was an offer, a real one. Funding, distribution, a multi-episode docuseries inspired by my story, with me as a co-creator. They wanted to begin pre-production immediately, and they wanted me in the pilot. I laughed. Then I cried. Then I picked up Lily, twirled her around the room, and whispered, "We did it." The cameras arrived 2 weeks later. My home became a set. My voice, a narrative thread. I was no longer a woman erased by a powerful family. I was the one writing the script. That night, as the kids fell asleep and I sat on the balcony overlooking a city that once felt too big for me, I whispered one more truth to the stars. You tried to bury me, but you forgot. I'm the seed. And when I tucked the twins into bed, I kissed each forehead and said, "Your mama is a warrior." And for the first time in a long, long time, I believed it. If you're in a dark place right now, listen to me. They will try to silence you, diminish you, break you. They'll twist your truth and ask why you're screaming while they hold the knife. But here's what I've learned. The best revenge isn't rage. It's success. It's peace. It's becoming everything they said you couldn't be, and then sitting quietly while the world claps for you. And when they see your name roll across the credits, when they see the story you were never supposed to tell, now being watched by millions, that's when they'll realize you didn't lose. They did.